And my wife and my son raided my bank account and bought me a checkout in a P-51. They thought that would be a great birthday present for me. And it was. And my instructor says, well, let's go out and do some aerobatics. Now, up to this point, even though I was always interested and excited about aerobatics, it was always kind of the feeling, well, that's for other people, and that's for kind of daredevils. And I loved it, but how do you get into that without being dangerous? But after spending a couple of days with this instructor, I felt very safe with him. He was a really, really safe guy, and he had safety top of mind, so I trusted him. The next 2 days were the most fun days of my life. We did very easy aerobatic maneuvers, nothing hard. P-51 won't do anything really that hard, but it was fun. It was the most freedom I'd ever had. And all the things that you instructors are teaching these new pilots not to do, you could get really close to that. And it teaches you how to do it and how to do it safe. And I found the International Aerobatic Club. That is the avenue to the safest way to learn aerobatics. They have some good instruction, they teach precision, and they teach how to do it and do it safely. 2000, something like that, started flying aerobatics, and the U.S. Nationals were right here in Grayson County at this airport, but it was right here. We had 20 years of nationals right here. In 2014, in the intermediate category, I was the national champion. And it's a lot of hard work, but it's fun. It's really fun. We have meetings that are just social gatherings, and then when the weather's nice, every second Saturday of the month, we're right here having a fly day. You're welcome to come down, watch, talk. If you'd like to go for a ride, usually there's somebody here with a 2-seat airplane that, when they're through with their practice, might offer to take you for a ride. If you're thinking about getting into aerobatics,
if we have enough interest here at Thrust, I'm going to buy a decathlon and then make that available so that we'll have that vehicle, so not everybody's going to have to go out and buy an airplane. So that's something that we're exploring right now.
If you buy it, I will help with the instruction.
You all heard him.
So why don't we, anybody that wants to see the whiteboard, you might move up. We're going to talk about some maneuvers now. So when you start in the primary sequence and then the sportsman sequence, all the maneuvers are positive G's. There are no negative G's in those. So most of the maneuvers consist of a looping, a vertical line, a 45 line, with the exception of a spin. There's no snap rolls, and there is no what we call pushes or negative. So let's talk about a loop. So when you're inside the cockpit, you have absolutely no idea whether this loop is round or not. So if you're just going out to fly Sunday afternoon aerobatics and you're giving somebody a ride, who cares whether it's round or not? Because nobody knows. You really don't know. So if you're going out and somebody's going to take you for a ride in a Stearman or some aerobatic airplane, somebody's watching from the ground, that loop looks like this. You instructors, can you tell me why? You are correct. So you teach your students that when you make a turn, a 360-degree turn, your speed determines the size of that radius, right? It's the same thing here. If you're going 100 knots here and you're going 50 here, this is bigger than this. You're pulling more G's here and less G's here. So to make it round, you have to vary the G. And when you vary the G, you vary the time. So G equals time. So if we take a loop, and we're going to talk about a decathlon for a minute. So if we're going to fly this loop around, we want to mirror our entry and our exit. So in a decathlon, we want 120 miles per hour. And I say miles per hour because that's what's on the outside of the gauge in a Citabria or most decathlons. So we're going to enter at 120. We want a 4G pull in a decathlon. Whatever you get is going to determine the size of the loop, right? Because of airspeed and G. So if you pull 4 Gs right here, it's going to determine the size of the loop. If you pull 4 Gs, 3 Gs, 2 Gs, right? Everybody with me? So we got a 4G pull. So you're going fast, you got a 4G pull. And in a decathlon, it's almost all there is. It's not violent, but it's a hard pull. So it's all the way back. Now, by the time you're here, you're down to maybe 90 to 100. Well, if you kept that all the way back, you're bleeding airspeed really fast and you're just going to flop over. So you have to reduce that elevator and reduce the G. So if you are at 4 Gs here, you need to be at about 2 Gs here. If you're 2 Gs and 100, you're trying to make this round, you're going to spend more time here than you did here, right? If you're here and you're at 50, you're going to be at between, let's just call it half a G. So you're not going to be negative, but you're going to feel really light in your seat. We call it a float. So over the top, you're floating, and you're going to feel like you're there forever. So what happens when that big, heavy motor starts down the hill? Correct. Now we're picking up airspeed. What do you got to do with this thing? Now you can start increasing that G, nice and slow. But as you come back, the thrust and the heavy engine start taking over, and now you're back to probably 110 here. So more G. So you're back to about 2.5 Gs here. Back to 4 Gs here, and you're pulling hard again. As soon as that horizon comes up, you release all of that G. And that makes you a round loop. So it's a little different than just going out and doing a loop. Precision aerobatics requires somebody on the ground watching you, talking to you on the radio. And they're going to tell you, if you come out here on the second Saturday, here's what you're going to hear. Pull harder. Don't pull so hard. Float, float, float. Wait, wait, wait. Pull hard, 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 harder. And they're going to do it over and over. And pretty soon, you're going to be able to see that it is exactly round. Any questions on that?
The competitions, are they grading how round it is?
Exactly what they're grading. Let me throw a wrench in the works. Let's say you got a 20 or 30 knot wind. How do I make that round now? The judge doesn't care about the wind, right? Now you just made it round. For whatever it's worth, you're probably not going to make it round, but you're going to make it more round than the other guy. I'll show you another maneuver that you probably don't realize that it takes a lot of what we affectionately call monkey motion. So does everybody know what a hammerhead turn is or a stall turn? A hammerhead or a stall turn is you pull vertical, you go up until you are out of energy, rotate, and come straight down. Easy enough, right? Sounds pretty easy. You just go up till you stop, turn. So some of you instructors, when you get to the top, what's hard about that? In competition aerobatics, they're drawn, if you look there, they're all drawn with straight lines, but they're not flown that way. Obviously, it's a radius, but it's judged, they're drawn as they're judged. So the radius is not judged. What's judged is the line. So once the airplane is on the line and it gets to the top, the goal is for the airplane to turn within one wingspan and come down on the exactly 90 degrees to the horizon. So obviously, that's the hardest part of this whole maneuver. And as somebody said, the problem is you get there and there's no airspeed for your control surfaces to be very effective. Is there something else that might be a problem up there? Gyroscopic effect, right? So you get there, right? And the airplane is trying to do this, right? It's not trying to do this, it's trying to do this. If you get there and all you have is the thrust from the engine or from the propeller, you're fighting the gyroscopic effect and you don't have a lot to work with. So before you get to the top, You want to count, while you have something there, you want to counteract the gyroscopic effect. So like in a decathlon, or even in my little pits, just before I get there, my stick is all the way to the right. I'm using every bit of aileron that I have to keep it from turning. I'm holding it straight. And it's a timing thing. You do it 100 times with somebody on the ground telling you, oh, you're turning. And you figure out when you slam that rudder to the ground. Once you get that rudder in a decathlon and in a pits, that stick's got to go forward, because now, what's it trying to do? The gyroscopic effect's trying to come this way. So the aileron goes this way, stick goes that way, just to do that. Then when you get the airplane flying again, of course, that's the easy part.
Does it take pretty much all the rudder to snap it over?
Every bit. The judge knows if you didn't get it all in there. They'll call it, they'll write on your score sheet, flew it over. Because the airplane will then begin to fly. Make a big part. Let's talk about angles for a minute. So there's a half Cuban and a shark's tooth, and where everything starts with a 45 degree angle. I don't know if you noticed on the game bird, or you've seen, maybe gone to an air show and you see these antenna looking things on the outside of the wings. Those are basically sighting devices. And some of them look like a star, some of them just look like a triangle. And what those are, you can line those up with a horizon, and it tells you whether you're on a 45 degree angle or not. And that's what the judge is looking for. If you're doing a half Cuban, for instance, you start here, 45, half roll, inverted, so the judge is looking at, are you on a 45 degree line here? Is the roll centered between here and here? And did this line vary? So is it on a 45? Is the rotation centered? Because remember, somebody said speed, right? You're slowing down. So time, the clock, you're going fast here, roll more time here to get the same distance, but you can't change, you can't vary the angle. And then rotate around. So that's really the basics of those judging. The same thing with the 90 degree line. The sighting device will tell you whether you're 90 degrees. There's times, this is a lot easier to do in the airplane. You know, when you're doing an aileron roll, or what we call a slow roll, when you're doing that, you want to be looking right over the horizon, and either at a point in the sky, even if there's nothing there, you pick an imaginary spot in the blue sky, and you deep focus on it, and you rotate around it. When you are changing attitudes, when you're going to go to like a 45 degree, you don't want to look forward because there is no reference there to where you're at. You're looking forward here. As soon as you start, you look to your sighting device, you hold your sighting device until you get to the point that you want to be. Now you're back here. Then let's say you're going to roll, right? So you roll, you check your sighting device, you're back here. Depending on what it is, then you find your horizon, you watch the horizon or the ground, but your point is very important. Where you look, it has an effect on what you're doing with the controls and timing. So I'll start with sickness and then I'll get on to that. Right now is not air show season. When I go out and I practice my air show, I got about 5 minutes and I got to get on the ground because I'm sick.
Oh, I think I made you sick before.
That's a different type of sickness. Because I'm not acclimated. I do get sick. My granddaughter and my daughter, they never get sick. I get sick at the start of air show season because of the gyroscopic maneuvers. And then with students, even when I'm flying a lot, what gets me is the combination of yaw and G. So when the airplane is not coordinated and a lot of G and I'm not controlling the airplane, I still get sick. So sickness is something, but you can overcome it. It's not something to be embarrassed about. It's just something you got to get used to. So if you're one of those people like me that gets sick, it's okay. You're going to go fly for 1 maneuver today. Tomorrow we'll go fly for 2 maneuvers. But if you just, hey, I get sick, I can't do it, you're giving up too easy.
Well, generally, if you throw up, you feel better afterwards.
Yeah. I would say eat something. It probably shouldn't be a gas station burrito. But your question, how do you stay oriented? It's almost natural. How many of you had spin training? So you probably the first time or second time when you did spins, you probably lost some orientation as far as direction, right? But you always knew the ground was. So it's kind of the same thing. The more you do it, the more you figure it out. Well, the ones that do spin training with me, you get to do inverted flat spins. Then you get disoriented. Then you learn what disoriented is all about. It's not as scary as you think if you learn to recover. So everybody thinks that, oh man, I don't know where the ground is, I don't know what direction I am, whatever. When you're thinking about that, remember this. The CG is designed into every airplane. So if you remember even just the basics of a recovery technique, get the power out all the way. If you do that and allow the controls to be neutralized, and depending on what kind of airplane it is, they will normally do it on their own. Some of them will not, like a game bird. But if the controls are neutralized, the power's out, what are you going to be looking at pretty soon? You're looking at the ground? Are you disoriented anymore? You know what's happening. Now you got airspeed. Now you're a pilot again. So I don't know if I'm helping you or not, but my message to you is don't let it bother you quite so much. If you look at videos a lot, you'll see some people, they're watching the horizon. I don't. Some do and some don't. I know where the ground is. So I wouldn't let that bother you too much. Practice spins. So the most aerobatic accidents have to do with spins. If you get into a spin with insufficient altitude, that's the danger zone. You always want to do aerobatics with sufficient altitude. So, for instance, before I do a new maneuver for an air show, I go to 6,000 or 8,000 feet. Why not? Give myself plenty of time to get this figured out, right? And then I start bringing it down. See, if any of you have been to an air show and seen my entrance, when the winds are calm, I do an inverted flat spin. I do probably a 20-turn inverted flat spin. So I do that because it makes me practice spins. And what makes me do that is that's the danger zone. If you look at outside the cockpit, you'll be able to see kind of what it looks like as far as staying oriented. There is some audio. I don't know if.
Concluded on Thursday of this past week, just 2 days ago, in Sherman, Texas, and the winner in the intermediate category.
Trying to get position.
Watch his eyes, guys. Watch where he's looking when he does this.
And he is going to be fun to watch. As we see, he's going to approach high in the sky. And the reason he's so high is he's going to demonstrate a maneuver that they said you could not get out of. It's called the inverted flat spin. Let's go ahead and get the music faded down just a little bit. Jody, this maneuver is the real deal. He's going to roll the airplane upside down. He's going to purposely get it into a spin. It's not easy to do. But once you do, it gives you full power. And he starts his revolutions. There's 4 revolutions. It's continuing to come down. He's in an inverted flat spin. This man is said he could not recover from. It killed many pilots in World War I.
Altitude check.
Because it's extremely disorienting. From 5,280 1 mile high in the sky, ladies and gentlemen, the 15-turn inverted flat spin. Give it up.
Opposite rudder. See, the elevator is not being forced.
So we're going to put the airplane upside down. We're going to pull the power off. We're going to raise the nose and then go into the
Okay.
accelerated spin there. You're
So he's
slowing
doing an
it
inverted
upside
spin.
down.
Yeah.
Full opposite rudder. Depending on what airplane you're in, you might use opposite aileron.
Yeah.
So he's spinning. Now watch what happens. Watch what flies away from the airplane here in just a second. Anybody guess what that is?
Yeah. That's him in a parachute.
Now what happens? Now
So
watch
he
the
bailed
airplane,
out.
guys. Immediately, as soon as he gets out, what happens? So what's the message there? Pilot screwed up.
Obviously, I don't know, but probably what happened there, he was not patient enough. He did not wait long enough for the inputs to correct the spin. Panicked and got out. But the important thing is here that when he got out, of course, he's not doing anything, right? The control surfaces neutralized. The airplane pointed at the ground and started flying again. I would recommend anybody that gets serious about flying aerobatics, find a book by, and I think it's the title, the Beggs-Mueller technique, or Beggs-Mueller. Should be easy to find. It's easy read. You can read it in a weekend or a day probably. But these two guys, Beggs and Mueller, took out as many airplanes as they could get a hold of, and they went out and put them in spins, pulled the power, let go of everything, and they recovered. And they wrote about it. And they wrote about the ones that recovered. And if you don't know, if you forget, if you panic, I would suggest that if the key is to get the power all the way out. Get the power all the way out. Let go of everything. The airplane will probably fly. There are a few, and depending on the orientation of the airplane, there are some that the ailerons, the stick could stay in a corner. But that is not the norm, and if it does, you should be able to recognize that and just bring it back to neutral. But the airplanes should neutralize and start flying again. I want to go over a sequence that I'm working with Patrick on. This is the IC sequence. It's actually the 2026 sequence that he's going to fly this year in competition in the Game Bird. Now we're going to talk about how he would fly it in the Game Bird, which will be totally different than how you would fly it in a decathlon or a Pitts or a different aircraft. As these classes continue, we may talk about how we would fly it in something else. But for the purposes of today, we're just going to go through how I would work with any one of you on an individual basis on how you would fly this in whatever particular airplane you would be flying, what you're thinking, how you're arranging your airplane, and so on and so forth. One of the things that I did not mention that I want to go over really quick is the aerobatic box. This box is 3,300 square feet. So it's 3,300 feet wide, tall. It's a square box. So the top of the box is 3,300 feet, 3,300 feet wide, 3,300 feet long. The judges, if I'm the judge looking at the box, this would be the x-axis, this would be the y-axis. In sportsman, the competitor cannot get lower than 1,500 feet AGL. They get lower than that, and more than, or the majority of the judges call him low, then he's disqualified for the flight. Anybody have any questions about that?
Is that an exact measurement? Any way to check where they do that, they believe?
So before the flight, the first competitor or somebody comes in with an airplane and they fly the low lines. So they fly at that exact low altitude, and at each mark, they wag their wings to show the judge. Usually a judge will take a clipboard or some type of measuring apparatus, hold it on the ground, the horizon, some way to know where that low line is. Because it will look different at the front of the box or the back of the box. The judge is a minimum of 500 feet back from the edge of the box.
Is that 1,500 just due to safety reasons why they would get disqualified?
Yes. So as you go up in the categories, so intermediate is 1,200, advanced is 800, unlimited is 300. before the sequence is started, you signal to the judges that you're ready to start your sequence by 3 dips of a wing. You can take a break at any time by signaling, again, 3 dips of the wing that you're taking a break. That is a penalty. There's a penalty for that. 5-point penalty for that. If you go out of the box, it's a penalty. Okay? So, let me get my game bird. Can everybody see this all right? Let's get on this side. Okay. If you notice the wind direction, this sequence, we're going to start going into the wind. So for this high performance airplane, we're going to start at a lower altitude than we would at a lower performing. And the way we would normally do this, we would sit down and we would start at the lowest point where we're going to finish, and we would add altitude for what we would lose to get to a starting point. Not to bore everybody, I know what it is. We're going to start at 2,000 feet. Okay? So you're going to come in at 2,000 feet, and you're going to wag your wings. 1, 2, 3. Every maneuver starts with a straight and level. Even though your wing wag or your signaling is not a scored maneuver, it's a message to the judge. If you come in and you just kind of do this, then you're telling them, I'm brand new. You need to watch me really close because I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. But if you come in and you're very precise, timing is just right. You just told him, I practiced this, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to show you something. You already have a score. All right, we're going to start this just before the center of the box because we want this spin dead center of the box, and we're going to show them how good our spin is. The score for this is very little. The score for this is really high. So you're going to come in with a moderate amount of speed. You're probably going to come in full throttle because we want that noise. Pull vertical. You're going to hold that vertical and start reducing your power. As you slow down, you're going to come off of that line with a little bit of energy. You don't want to be dead, but you want some energy. As you come here, the power is going to come completely off, but you still have energy. You're going to show this line. You're going to hold that line, start bringing the nose up. You've planned this so that the nose comes up. You're going to reserve some stick. So as the nose comes up, and just before you stall, you're going to anticipate the stall. The stick's going to come back abruptly at the same time. Whichever way you're going to spin, the rudder goes in hard. Stick comes back, rudder goes in hard. You're showing the judge the stall and the yaw simultaneously. Hold the stick back. In this airplane, you're going to give it just a little bit of gyroscopic power to flatten it just a little bit. You don't want to spin like so. You want to show a nice spin. You're going to go around once. As you approach here, now you're going to cheat a little bit. You're going to start recovering, and your stick is going to point to the heading that you want and bring the nose so that you're down on a
Vertical line.
on a vertical, exact vertical line. So as you come around, you're going to recover a little bit early using your ailerons and your forward stick. It's imperceivable for the judge that you're using aileron there. If you do it too early, they're going to catch you because they're going to see, if they see that wing come up, they're going to catch it. But once you're here, they can't perceive that wing a little bit. And it's going to give you the best chance to stop it there. Now you stopped it. You've got enough altitude, you're going to show, remember, you started 2,000 here, you had a lot of smash. We call it smash. Speed is smash. We had a lot of smash here, so we went up about 1,500 feet. We got here, we did our spin. Now, we have plenty of time to show off. Look how perfect my line is. Now we're going to come off of that, right? We're going downwind. We don't want to dawdle too long. We're here. We want a nice radius, right? 4G pull. The difference between this and the loop is we're not going to float because they can't see the back side, so they really don't know. Come around, keep pressure all the way. You're looking out the left now. You're watching your sighting device. Bam! 45. Take a breath. Hold it, roll. Half a breath. Line, you're going back into the wind. Take a minute. Where am I? Where's my X? You should be, if we got this line right, we should be right back almost to the X again. If we want to pull here, right over the X. Here we go. We got some smash here, right? So we got plenty of smash. Speed's not an issue. 4 Gs is what we want. We're going to pull 4 Gs here. Here's the important part. We're going to get to about right here. We're going to start our roll early so that when our wings are level, we're back on this line. There is no, even though it shows it here, you're not to show a line here. This comes up, you're to be on the line without showing a line after the half loop. So in the cockpit, you start, it looks like you're rolling early. You're going to get to about this attitude, roll, and because you have no lift here, or very little lift, you're going to fall and you're going to be on the line. I'm doing that backwards, but you understand what I'm saying. You're going to come this way and roll. You're going downwind, so again, we don't want to dawdle, but we want a little bit of speed for that 2 of 4. So we're back, we got full throttle. Now, 1, hold it, 2, pull, power back. Our power's back. We're going to make a nice smooth half loop down, split S, power's in. So right after our second half of the roll, the power comes back smoothly, not abruptly, smoothly. Bring it down, stop on the line. We're into the wind, so we got a minute. Where are we at? Where's our X? We want to put this perfect loop we're going to make right over the X if we can. So we're going to drive. Here we go. Remember we talked about it. We're going to pull 4 Gs. Here we go. 2 G's, float, 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 and pull harder, 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 back to the line. Back into the wind, we got some time. We're going to do a 180-degree competition turn. We're not going to blend it. We're going to roll, pull. 180, stop on heading, roll back. So there's no blending. Go to the hammerhead. We're going downwind. We don't want to wait. We're going to pull. Well, all the way to the top. Stick in this airplane slightly to the right at the top. A little bit of forward stick, push hard, down, we're out. Going into the wind, let's get some speed so we can show off and do a slow roll. We want to be just before the X because we want to show the shark's tooth. So before the X, nice, quick, slow roll. I'm going to pull vertical, full throttle. We're going to come off of this with some energy. We're not going to get slow like a hammerhead. We're going to come off of this with some energy. Our throttle's going to come back. Not all the way out, but we're going to come back. We still have some energy. Okay, take a breath, roll. Half a breath, out. Downwind, but we got to have some speed. So we may have to drive this a little bit because we got to have some speed for the half loop. Full throttle. Half loop up. We're going to go knife edge before we get to the top. 1, hesitate. 2. 3 wags. Yeah, so if you turn the lights on, I'll show you how the box is marked. So these are big panels that are marked on the ground. And of course, from the end of this one to the end of this is 3,300 feet. This is 3,300 feet. Who else got questions?
We were talking about points earlier. So if you fly out of the box and you have a deduction, how does that, is that like a severe deduction to your score? Or is there a possibility that you might still do okay?
So the deduction for an interruption becomes more severe as you go up in the categories. So for primary, which is the category lower than this one, I think it's like 2 points. Maybe it's, you know what? I think it's 5 points. It's the same for these two categories. 5 points deduction. And I think the whole score would be around 1,500 points. So that gives you an idea. But the next category, it's like 15 points. And then the next category, it's 50 points. So it.
Close to that 1,500, are you staying as far as top scorers?
Well, they're just, the top 3 are decided usually within 20 or 30 points. So it can be significant. Yeah. So we're going to, depending on what the winds are doing, we may not fly the whole sequence. We may just fly some one-off. But what we will definitely do is fly some loops. So you all can be judges and look and see how close to a round loop we get. We'll fly more than one, see how round we can make this loop from where we start to where we finish. You ready?
missed that one.